I've been a bus driver. I've driven lorries.
Paul is 57 and lives in Weston-super-Mare. This morning he went to the local food bank in desperation.
Today I picked up these cans.
So you've got what? Baked beans?
Baked beans.
Soup? Tomato soup?
Chopped tomatoes are back there as well.
He's had no money for days, and what little food he's had to ration to one meal a day.
Have you been hungry,
I've
Paul?
been starving. I've been really hungry the last 3 days.
So what did you eat yesterday?
I had fish fingers and beans.
What else did you have?
That's it. That's all I had was fish fingers and beans for me evening meal.
What about lunch?
No. I just fill up on tea.
He lives alone, and in this, the flat's only other room, keeps the lights off as much as possible. Vehicle repair diplomas adorn mostly bare walls from a career ended prematurely by ill health.
I think I just get scared of going out and seeing other people living their lives. You know, I kind of walk past a pub and everybody's sat outside at lunchtime having a drink. I don't drink, but it's the fact that how can you afford that? That was for September.
Paul receives £843 a month on universal credit. He's due to get more on health grounds, but right now he's reeling from a recent hike in rent, now costing £620 a month, leaving him, after paying bills and insurance, with
on average £30 for the month. That's for food, washing, because I have to use a laundrette to do my washing. And so that's expensive. No.
So £30?
Yeah. I have started washing in the sink.
The amount you've got in your bank account currently?
11 pence. And that's it.
Today's report by the Joseph Rowntree Foundation estimates the number of people experiencing destitution in the UK has more than doubled in the last 5 years. Such severe hardship, they say, is no longer a rare occurrence.
Do you want some extra milk, love?
Oh yes, please, yes.
Got loads of milk.
Gareth, who's 55, finds himself at the same food bank as Paul. A welder fabricator until he says a spinal issue affecting his hands made that too difficult.
I need a new pair of boots, yeah? I'll struggle to buy a postcard with a pair of boots on it. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I can't afford anything, you know? Sometimes I have to share a can of tuna with a cat because we're that skin. You get to a stage where you just think, what's the point? You know, this is not living, this is not even surviving. Everything I held dear in the last year, since I've been signed off, has gone, really.
His application for disability benefits, he says, is proving long and arduous. A common theme, says today's report.
Do you like salami?
Another, as this food bank tells us, is that many simply can't afford essential items with the universal credit income they get.
Sometimes we actually counted, and in a session where we did 32 parcels, 30 people asked for toilet paper. Some people, it's the first thing that, when you say, you know, just ask them for their voucher number and their name, and the first thing they say is, I need toilet paper, more than anything else. And it's just, yeah.
It is, says today's report, a social security system now so full of holes that it falls to charities to intervene, but adds the task is too great for them. Its finding of a sharp rise in destitute migrant households chimes with what Bristol's Borderlands charity has seen. There's barely a spare seat at this, their weekly lunch for refugees and asylum seekers.
7.
While the numbers queuing for a handout of fruit and veg grow ever larger.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Are people asking you for more food, more than you can give them?
Absolutely. I think with the food we give every week, we cannot cover a week for a family, and every week there is people asking for different items we just can't provide.
Is there always a big queue like this?
Yes, absolutely. Like, it's growing every week.
Warnings grow around the impact destitution can have, particularly on children. With as many as 1 million in the UK affected last year, So claims today's report. Back in Weston-super-Mare, we meet Jasmine, a single parent to Henry.
Good boy.
She's in paid work, a part-time cleaner and receptionist training to be a counsellor. She receives universal credit, but has debt, has needed the food bank, and has skipped meals, she says, so Henry has enough.
Toast.
She is only just managing to avoid what the Joseph Rowntree Foundation would define as destitution.
Cheese, yeah.
I now know these next 2 months are going to be really hard because at the moment I can only just afford my gas and electric, and I know my gas is now about to triple. I think last winter, I think, so January time, it was -2, it was freezing, like I had him wrapped in everything, and my gas cut off. I'd gone over the emergency credit.
How are you feeling generally at the moment, in all honesty?
I mean, there's good days and bad days. I feel at the moment guilty and frustrated because it's his birthday on the weekend and I haven't been able to afford to get him anything. I've only just covered the bills this month. My mum had to do a food shop for me last week. So I just don't feel good as a person. I just feel like I'm not doing enough, even though I probably actually am.
Turning the tide on destitution, said the charity behind today's report, is an urgent moral mission.
The circumstances that you find yourself in would, in line with this report, characterise you as destitute?
Yes. It's not a word that I've ever used in my life. Never thought I'd have to use it. But that's scary. To think that I am destitute. Even though I've tried not to be.
Well, Channel 4 News did ask to speak to somebody from the government about this, but no one was available. Earlier, the Work and Pensions Secretary, Mel Stride, was speaking to reporters and was asked about the report.
So I think we have a strong record on poverty. Since 2010, we have 1.7 fewer people in absolute poverty. 400,000 of those are children. But there's always more to do, and that's why my department has been putting out millions of cost of living payments over the last year to 800 low-income families, exactly the ones you're describing, on universal credit, 6 million disabled people, also support for those who are pensioners as well, the national living wage going up by 9.7% in April. But most importantly of all, continuing to bear down on inflation, because that is really what has been eating up people's savings and making the cost of living that much more difficult.
Well, I'm joined now by Katie Schmucker from the Joseph Rowntree Foundation and by Bex Wilson, who set up a charity here in Leeds, helping to support some of those children in greatest needs. Thanks, both of you, for joining us. Bex Wilson, I mean, we saw Andy ask Paul in the piece. Paul, a grown man, he had been in work. Would you say you've been hungry? And he stands there and says, I've been starving. Does anything in that report surprise you, given what you've seen?
It's still shocking to hear. Especially towards the end, sort of saying I never thought I'd have to use those words to describe myself. I think that's something we see a lot in our work, families that just never envisaged having to access the support that we offer. But, you know, 2017, teaching a little boy, saying that he, you know, just didn't have a bed, and then not being able to find him a bed without sort of going out and doing something about it. I was shocked then, and I'm still shocked now, and I think that's part of our mission to end bed poverty through Zara.
Not having a bed, not having the basics, yet many people don't buy the idea of destitution.
It's real and it's everywhere. And I would say from the messages that we get from schools, from professionals working on the front line with children day in, day out, it is only on the increase.
I mean, Katie Schmucker, it's fair to say probably that the government don't actually buy your measure of destitution. They've told us that there are 1.7 million fewer people in absolute poverty. We heard Mel Stride list a whole raft of policies, cost of living payments, increasing to the national living wage. He says that we're trying to tackle inflation and that will make all of these people better off, will it?
Well, I think the questions that he's answering there are different ones. I mean, he's talking about absolute poverty. A single person in absolute poverty, if they have less than £157 per week. What we're talking about here is a far more severe form of hardship. Destitution, a single person who has less than £95 per week. We're talking about people who are unable to meet their most basic physical needs to be warm, dry, clean and fed. This is the most severe form of hardship and deprivation in our country, and it has doubled in the space of 5 years. And so that is what we want to see the government talking about, that very sharpest end of hardship. And we want to know, both from the government but also from the opposition parties as well, what is it that they are going to do about this? Where is
I mean, the
plan?
government
Because
says
it
its
shouldn't
focus
belong.
is on tackling inflation, and it will ease some of these burdens for people.
When we look at the what's happened over time, we've seen between 2017 and 2019, destitution was rising in that period as well. It's risen again since. So yes, definitely the cost of living, the very sharp increases to food and to energy has played a part here. But actually the roots of this are much deeper, and they go to the very threadbare social security system that we now have, the cuts and freezes to universal credit, to social security. That is a big driver of what we are seeing here.
I mean, there seems to be a disconnect often between what the government says and what people are seeing on the ground, what we see on the ground when we report on these issues. I mean, do you see that disconnect?
Absolutely. We've been petitioning for a while now to have a response from central government about what are we going to do to tackle bed poverty. We know it's an issue affecting hundreds of thousands of children. Their one shot at education is being limited. Their attempt to get out of poverty through education is being limited through not having a bed, not turning up to school with their basic needs met, ready to learn. So what are we going to do to tackle that? We believe that there's a thirst out there from the bed industry to do something and to help, but that needs to be coordinated from the top.
I mean, your report today talks about how, you know, social security needs to be more generous. You know, that's an incredibly controversial political idea that neither party may be looking at.
I don't think it is that controversial an idea. When we talk to the public, when we do opinion polling, when we go out and speak to people, what we find is that people very much support the idea that our social security system should be there for us when we fall on hard times. Life can come at you fast sometimes. Any one of us can lose our jobs, can be sick, get sick, need to care for a disabled family member. You know, things happen in life. And when they do, social security should be there to help us get back on our feet and move on with our lives. And our system is currently failing.
But I mean, the government's stated aim of universal credit is that it will provide a basic income for people, which covers a range of needs. Do both of you, either of you, think that is true?
No. I mean, 7 in 10 people who are experiencing destitution were in receipt of social security payments, so universal credit or other benefits. It's clearly not actually helping people to meet their needs. And that's why we've been arguing for an essentials guarantee to be built into universal credit, so that it is always enough for people to meet life's basic essentials.
But do you think that, you know, it's that idea of what is enough, and that the government with the benefit system may have an idea of what is enough, but this destitution report suggests that's not right?
Well, it's never... Our social security system, the basic rate of social security, of universal credit, is £85 per week to cover food, utility bills, clothes, travel, all sorts of things. That it's clearly not enough. And it has never actually been related to a costed basket of essentials. It's just a sort of historical accident and a series of decisions about how to operate it. So it's completely disconnected from the realities of what it costs to meet your needs.
And through my experience as a deputy head teacher of a large primary school, and also working with professionals working in schools across the country through ZARAC, parents are not choosing for their children to not have a bed. They are not choosing for the chaos that is in their house when there can be no bedtime routine, where they are worrying about how to put food on the table, where they are living in houses without carpets, without curtains, and not knowing when they're going to be able to wash their clothes next, or, you know, have their top up for electricity and their utility bills paid. They're not choosing to live with that pressure, that stress and that chaos. That's what they find themselves in.
It's such an important point, though, because the choice here lies with government. Government can choose to do something about this.
Going to have to end it there, and I'm really sorry, there's so much more to talk about, but thank you both of you for coming in.